Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of the Back of the Pack podcast. Thank you for joining us. My name is Kyle Walker. This is brought to you by OKKC Sports, and this is our very first and very special episode. We have a guest with us, which is very exciting. So last week, we talked about the Fighting Fentanyl 5K, which is coming up on June 18th at Mill Valley High School here in Shawnee, Kansas. I will definitely be there. I'm already registered. I hope that all of you will be there as well. And joining us for today's episode is, well, we're gonna give her the title of race director. This is Libby Davis. Libby, welcome to the podcast, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kyle. I'm happy to be here.
So Libby used to work with a friend of mine, and this friend, her name is Kathy, reached out to me and said, hey, there's a new race coming up. Maybe you would like to cover it for the show. And because it's a race, I said yes. And then I looked into it further and found the Fighting Fentanyl 5K. And so, Libby, you're doing this for a reason. This isn't just another fun race to add to the calendar. Please share with everyone, if you will, your reason for this race.
Absolutely. You know, planning a race like this was definitely a year ago not on my list of things to do. But unfortunately, we lost our 16-year-old son, Cooper, to a fentanyl poisoning. He took half of a pill that he thought was Percocet one day with a couple of friends. There was actually 4 boys, and there were 2 pills. And they shared those 2 pills, and 3 of the boys lived, and Cooper did not. And so we have been thrown into this kind of firestorm of learning about illicit fentanyl and how it's coming across the border in unprecedented amounts. And that's what took our son from us. And we just automatically felt like we needed to get the word out there. We needed to spread awareness. And that is why we chose to organize this 5K event.
5Ks I have found are great ways to raise awareness for various things. And I'm going to ask, so far, how has the response been? Are you guys feeling like, you know, this race is getting a lot of traction?
You know, we are. I was a little nervous at first. We were doing really good because we decided to ask for some sponsorships, and our sponsors came out, you know, and we were doing really great. Then we felt like some good response. We have BioSteel that offered to be our official hydrator of the race. We thought, wow, this is great. We're going to be big time. We also were fortunate enough to have Cameron Taylor from one of our local news stations offer to be the MC for the event. But our participation was looking a little low. So, however, in the last week or so, we have had a surge of registrations. In fact, today, a local hospital just offered to pay for 50 registrations, and they're going to try to get a team together.
Oh, wow.
So we're definitely over 300 mark for registrations, and we expect more to come in, even all the way up to race day. So.
Okay, great. That's awesome. I'm really glad it's doing well because I know 5Ks, yeah, if done correctly, they're great. And if not, I know the registration can worry someone a little bit. So we're doing the Fighting Fentanyl 5K, and it's under kind of the banner of keeping it clean for Coop. Can you kind of explain what this is?
Yeah. So, you know, immediately after Cooper's death, which was back in August, he had just started his junior year at Mill Valley High School. He was about 2 weeks into his junior year, and, you know, this occurred. And instantly, when we realized about this crisis that our nation is facing and this epidemic, we immediately wanted to educate the students in our community, the parents in our community. And I just thought, I want to make a bumper sticker. You know, I want to make a sticker. Keeping clean for Coop came to mind. Just something maybe even the high school kids would rally around and use. You know, kids like stickers. They put them on just about everything these days. So I thought if that could be their kind of pledge, or at least an item that they had in their possession that would remind them of Cooper's story, because we want his story to serve as a cautionary tale about what could happen. So that kind of just evolved into, as we were learning about more and more about this, we wanted to start a foundation in Cooper's name that was geared towards spreading awareness around fentanyl and educating. So that's kind of where the Keeping Clean for Coop came from. It's kind of a tongue twister, but really we want it to be a reminder and a pledge.
Okay, great. And everyone, you can find that on Facebook, which is where I'm looking right now under Keeping Clean for Coop. Go out there, give them a follow. And I see you're posting a lot of the information about the race on that page, which is excellent. And then you've also got a lot of news articles. I will admit that I'm one of the people who you hear on the news of the quote unquote opiate crisis, but the fentanyl was something I was really not familiar with. And I'm seeing something along the lines now in these articles of, well, between 2019 and 2021, fentanyl overdose deaths have rose 350%. Do you have some of those numbers, or just, some ways to kind of really underline the impact that this is really starting to have on families such as yourself and others?
Yeah, it's startling. And, you can find several news stories or articles about fentanyl across the country every single day. I've heard that we're losing someone to fentanyl, not just overdose, but specifically fentanyl. And that's a whole nother topic of conversation. But fentanyl is taking a life anywhere from every 8 to 10 minutes. Wow. So the numbers are staggering. I know that Kansas alone had in a 2-year time frame that ended in 2020, the state of Kansas had a 789% increase in the death rate related to fentanyl.
Oh my.
So yeah, we're setting records that we really don't want to be setting. Oh. And that's more than, double any other Midwest state.
Wow. You may or may not know the answer. And I'm curious. Do you happen to know why it is so prevalent in our area?
I don't know specifically, but there's some speculation just because of the highway systems that we have and the route. We know that the illicit fentanyl is coming across the Mexico border. Mm-hmm. So it's coming in mostly to California, definitely into Texas. And, it just makes its way right up through the middle of the United States where we're sitting.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. And I probably should have asked this question a little earlier. For people like me, can you tell me what is fentanyl? Like, is there kind of a dummy definition for people like me?
Well, yeah, it's a synthetic opioid. So that means it is man-made. However, I'm a nurse. My husband is a nurse anesthetist. Mm-hmm. He provides fentanyl in the operating room every day of his life. However, the hospital grade fentanyl, it is also man-made, but obviously it is under very tight quality control. And, it is used as one of the most potent pain medications available, but it is so potent that it is used to help provide anesthesia during surgeries and things like that. So it's a very useful and necessary drug in the medical community. But what we're seeing is illicit fentanyl, which the precursor chemicals are being sent from China. They're being sent to Mexico. Mexico is creating their own batch of fentanyl in clandestine labs, garages, out in the jungle. There's no quality control. They have bought pill presses to make their concoction, which contains fentanyl, look like our standard prescription pain medications that we generally get at the pharmacy. So they're coming across the border looking like Xanax, Percocet, Oxy, different drugs that you might see in a typical medicine cabinet because somebody in your family might have had surgery and needed some post-operative pain medication. Xanax is a drug that's used widely throughout the United States to treat anxiety. Mm-hmm. And so particularly kids think that if they see a pill that looks like something they're familiar with, or they may have taken it before, or they know somebody who's taken it for pain. They think they're getting the real thing, but they're not. These are fake pills that are coming across the border.
And that is terrible. And I did see in one of these articles, they're kind of calling this more of a suburban issue. Something about how, the kids around here kind of have the money to pay for that stuff from whoever might be offering it. And so that might be another reason we're seeing a rise in more the suburban area. Is that something that you have seen as well?
I think there's probably some truth to that. However, I will tell you that I've heard that one fake pill only costs about $8. So it's not expensive to get on the street, which means a lot of people could get to it. I think the youth gravitate towards pills because they're not, pills have somewhat been normalized for that generation. But also, I don't think a lot of our teenagers have gotten into maybe some of the harder drugs like heroin and cocaine, which are also being laced with fentanyl. So I think their go-to is the pills, just because it seems maybe a little less harsh, so to speak.
They might almost justify it as safer.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is a frightening thought. That would be considered safer. So what is something we can do? What can we do to combat this as you see it right now? Yeah.
Well, as hard as the DEA is working to try to stop this from coming across the border, it just continues to pour into our country. I just read a post from the DEA LA area yesterday, and it says in the first 4 months of 2022, there has been a 64% increase in seized fentanyl compared to the same time frame in 2021. So it's definitely not slowing down. 2021, we set records, at early, maybe around September. It was probably when the DEA released their first public safety alert that they had released it had been 6 years since they posted anything, but just less than a month after Cooper died, this public safety alert came out, and it was their campaign called One Pill Can Kill. And they had seen such a dramatic influx of fentanyl into our country. They knew they had to start moving on it quickly. But they said in 2021, they've confiscated enough fentanyl to kill every American.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, most startling fact about that statistic is that they've confiscated that much, which only represents 20% of what is actually coming across the border.
Oh, wow. Jeez. So I know a lot of people who might be listening to this podcast, they kind of fall in, they have kids, they have, either teenagers or preteens. I myself have a 15-year-old and a soon to be 13-year-old. What is something that you would like to tell the parents of these teenagers?
Well, we have to talk about it. Mm-hmm. My fear is, there's a stigma with drugs in general. And a lot of parents and a lot of teenagers think, well, the teenager's mindset might be, oh, it's not going to happen to me, right. Or the parents have the mindset, not my kid, and that is probably the most dangerous way of thinking that they could have right now. A lot of times, sadly, these kids are actually turning to self-medicating because they're really trying to help themselves. Mm-hmm. They want to get a Xanax to try to calm themselves, and just so they can relax, because our teenagers these years, they're feeling very stressed. There is definitely a prevalence with anxiety and depression in our teenagers, and they are turning to self-medicating. And the easiest way to get those pills are social media, which is how the drug cartels are getting to our kids to make them available. And it's as easy as ordering food from Uber. You can just get on a social media site, a couple clicks, and you can have a pill delivered to your front door.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, that definitely makes it very hard to combat.
Yeah. So we have to have the conversation, mm-hmm. and we have to keep having the conversation, because this problem is not going to go away anytime soon. And we just need to keep, everyone aware of the dangers of taking any medication that was not prescribed by your doctor and filled in a pharmacy.
Oh, yep. And there's the big one. We were speaking before the show, and yeah, you said if it comes from the pharmacy, you're good. Yeah. Anything not, they in this article, they equate it to playing Russian roulette.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. The DEA has found that 40% of the pills they confiscate have a deadly dose of fentanyl.
And 40% of these counterfeit pills, it could poison you, is what we're saying.
Exactly.
Wow. Yep. That's, I had no idea. I had no idea these numbers were what they were. And again, just looking at the articles here, I do see that something you've been pushing for has been public service announcements on TV and education starting in elementary school. How has that been going for you?
Well, it's a little bit harder, I think, than it should be.
Yeah. I'll bet.
I'm definitely not giving up on it. I do know there are organizations on the West Coast that have been working in this arena, longer than we have. Mm-hmm. But they have been very successful I know there's, a bereaved parent activist in Oregon who were able to get fentanyl education in their entire school district. And they offer it to any school district for free who is willing to adopt this curriculum. And so every school that I get an opportunity to talk to, or every school district, I make sure to tell them that the curriculum is there. It has already been developed. All we have to do is say yes and put it in our schools. It's that simple. But yeah, there are a lot of cities that have commercials that talk about the dangers of fentanyl. Actually, this morning, my sister-in-law, she's kind of been fighting the fight for us down in Wichita. Oh, okay. And starting to make some progress down there. But one of her friends sent her a note or an informational letter, I guess, that went out to one of the private schools down there, just warning of the dangers of fentanyl. And so, that always makes me happy when schools are on board and doing what it takes to keep their students safe.
Yeah, and it does sound like this is a very bad issue down in Wichita right now.
It is. We were really surprised by the numbers down there when we started doing the research.
Jeez. All right. Well, I mean, I have learned a ton on all this, and I hope anyone listening will as well. Is there anything else? Is there anything you want to add that you want people to know? We are going to, of course, we send this podcast out just as far as we can to reach as many people as we can. And then on our website, I'm sure my producer will be happy to put up maybe, is there a hotline? Is there what's a resource that people might have?
Well, the DEA has a website dedicated to the One Pill Can Kill initiative. So there's a lot of good information on the DEA's website. I'm not aware of a hotline, but I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
There's a company out of California, or an organization, I should say. It's a nonprofit. They are an accumulation of bereaved parents that have come together. And that organization is called Song for Charlie. It's a website filled with information. It contains, they help people like me provide presentations to, I can go to their website and they will give me material with slides and statistics and all the data so that I can go into the schools or businesses in my area and educate the community about this fentanyl epidemic. So they are doing amazing work, and they have a lot of information on their website.
Okay. Well, then I will kindly speak to Katie, as we talked about on the show, and see if she can get some links to Song for Charlie and then the DEA website, just to have as much information as available as we can possibly get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for coming on this little old podcast.
I'm happy to. I'm so glad you're bringing light to this epidemic.
Oh, 100%. And I will be out there at the 5K. I'm going to try and get my daughters registered. I want everyone, all the Back of the Pack listeners, let's get to this one on June 18th, the Fighting Fentanyl 5K, again at Mill Valley High School here in Shawnee. Honestly, I could run to it if I wanted a warm-up mile, because I live about a mile away from the school. So, awesome. Hopefully we can get some folks out there to support this, because this is important stuff. and it's probably going to end up affecting more people than we'd really like to have be affected by it.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Well, great. Is there any last thoughts you have before I let you go? Again, I know I'm taking up a little bit of your day here.
No, not at all. I just, awareness is our number one defense. We just got to keep talking about it and tell, the other people we love. And maybe it's not our kids, but it could be our kids' friends. Mm-hmm. It could be a niece and a nephew in another state. It's happening everywhere. So we just have to keep talking about it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Libby, for joining us. Again, this is Libby Davis for the Fighting Fentanyl 5K, keeping it clean for Coop. Make sure you go out and support them. Do everything you can on social media. Spread the word. Do your research. And let's try and help out this cause. All right, everybody. Libby, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep. And that's going to do it for this episode of The Back of the Pack. We will see you next week after our next 10K that we're running. And so everyone, have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.